Right, little Effie has got hair now. I didn't do the rooting on camera because I've already done Alfie rooting on camera, and it's very much the same, but I think she looks really lovely. So what I have left to do now is her lashes and her little brows and her nails. Now, brows, I think brows done badly are worse than no brows at all. So a lot of my babies I've done in the past with no brows at all, because if you look at photographs of babies, you can very, very rarely see any brows at all. They're almost invisible because they're so light, fair and light. Even dark-haired babies, very often you just can't see them at all. It's just like a shadow. So I think it's better to do no brows than bad brows. But at the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to root them very, very lightly and show you how I do that. So first of all, I'm going to do her nails, because then they can be curing while we do the rest of her. I'm going to pop her on a Twizy turntable so that I can move her around. There we are. I've got the camera on the table here, so at some point I probably will knock the camera onto the floor, so you're just going to have to bear with while that happens. It's just gonna happen at some point. I just know it, because I just don't think about things around me. I just while I'm doing little painting and that. So what I'm going to do is you can use ordinary silicone to paint the nails, or you can use silicone glue, either Silpoxy or Sam 32, and I'm going to use Sam 32 because I have that here. We do sell it in the shop and I can't find it right now, so I'm going to go and look for it. Yeah, you think I would have it here, wouldn't you, as I'm about to use it, but you know. Oh, here we are. Yes, it's here. As you can see, I have it ready here to show you. Everything's fully prepared, and I wouldn't have started without having it here. Right, now then, little Effie, I'm going to have your nails done. Right, what we're going to do. So Sam 32 it's a gel. It's fairly fast drying. You do have to make sure you put the lid back on really, really quickly after you've squeezed it out. What's the right word for it? Squeeze it out. It smells quite strongly of vinegar. It's not particularly pleasant. It's not dreadful, but it's not particularly pleasant. And you do dilute it with the same solvents that you use for ordinary silicone painting. So I'm going to use, if I can find it, but obviously I have it here. Oh, here it is. Yes. I do have it here. I do have it ready. I'm using the Sam silicone solvent, that the odourless one, because because I like it, obviously. Right. I'm sorry, I sound like I'm really disorganised today, and you'd be right in thinking that. I just need to get this done. Okay, I'm going to switch off while I get all my stuff ready, which I should have done before I started. Okay, I'm back again. I actually have everything I need now, I think. I've got some brushes, which one good thing about selling the products I'm using is I've always got materials that I need. Now this is a set of fine brushes, which are really useful for what I'm going to be doing today, and ordinary brushes. So I'm going to mix some solvent onto here. Now I use the lids of these tub things just to do this. Oops. These all wrong today, aren't I? There we are. Right, I use the lids of the little pots. They're really handy for mixing the silicone solvent, the SAM 32 and the Silpoxy if you prefer Silpoxy. I prefer SAM 32 because it's just a little bit softer than Silpoxy and it's easier to squeeze out of the tube as well. Right, I've just added a little bit of solvent, just enough to relax it a little bit. It looks a little bit sort of white milky. It does dry completely clear. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of colour. What we're going to do is the nails and then the nail tips. So I'm going to add a little bit of colour to it. Now I'm going to use Buff Oxide, which is one of the SAM colours, and a teeny bit of pink. I'm going to just put the colour at the side so that I can add a little bit of it as I go along. I don't want us to add too much. And a little bit of the, just a tiniest bit of the crimson oxide, just the tiniest tip of that. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use white for the tips because we don't want the baby to look like she's just had a French manicure. So I'm going to just mix up a sort of a very pale flesh, just a bit paler than the colour she would have been poured in. So a teeny bit of pink. I think that will be okay with a bit more buff. So we don't want it too thick, we don't want too much pigment in it, but we want enough. So I'm just going to pour out some solvent into a tub so that I can just clean my brush in it. And a piece of kitchen roll, which of course is Bill's best friend. Right, it may be too soft this, but I'm going to have a go. It's not going to be that easy trying to keep it on video, but we'll try. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a very fine brush from my fine brush pack, the finest one there is. And I'm also going to have these micro applicators. These are the very fine ones, which are really useful for very fine work. Whoops! That's if I don't throw the brush around. Yeah, that's not going to be thick enough. I'm going to add more SAM 32. I think I've diluted it too much. What we want is we don't want it to be able to stand up on its own. We don't want it sort of like royal icing, but we want it to be able to not. We don't want it to flood. We don't want it to spread out. So I'm going to add a bit more of that. Which would be helpful if I did it on camera, wouldn't it? A teeny bit more of the colour. There we are. I think that might be just about right, but we shall try it. One good thing about silicone, you can just rub it straight back off again if it's not right. Now you need to work reasonably quickly because this does dry really quickly. There we are. Can't see it very well, but we don't want, as I say, we don't want it to look like she's had a French manicure. It doesn't. Babies don't have white tips. They just have tips slightly paler than their skin colour. It's so easy to rub it right back off again. immediately you've done it. Now you can do these with the normal silicone that you've painted your baby with. You don't need to do it with Silpoxy or Sam 32, but what you may find is that the silicone will spread, as you know, because if you've been painting with silicone, that you do the little line and it stays put. If you do it with normal silicone, it'll spread like honey. Right, I'm just going to put that. I'm just going to leave her arm against something so that it doesn't. Oops. So it doesn't touch anything while it's drying. So yeah, when you do it with normal silicone, what I tend to do is I add thickener, the Thixo, and then which makes it less likely to spread, and then I add thinner solvent to thin it down. So what you get is a thin liquid, a bit like I'm using here, that doesn't spread. So whereas if you just thin it down with thinner, it will just spread. Whereas if you put thickener in it, that stops it from spreading, and then you thin it back down again, which makes it workable. So you thicken it and then you thin it again. That's the only way I can find to use it. So you don't have to go out and buy more products. But this is actually a really handy way of doing it. Handy for your handies. Pretty easy to do. It's actually easier to do, I think, than on a reborn baby, because you're using a slightly thicker mix than you do with Genesis. And you can always use your little applicators to tidy them up afterwards. Where you've gone over the edge. As I say, it just needs to be, well, it just needs to be a suggestion of the end of a nail. I mean, lots of babies you wouldn't even see the tip, but it just gives it a nice finish. But there's nothing worse than it just being a white French manicured end. It just looks a bit odd. Slightly over there. Oh, and now I'm just going to put the finger in that one. As soon as the silicone starts to cure, you'll have to mix up another lot to make sure you get the right colour and that. Right, that's that hand done. And then I'll be going over doing the clear gloss for the actual nail. There we are, sweetie. Right, now it's really awkward this because the camera has to be so close to me. It's not giving me a lot of space on the desk. So same thing with their little toes. obviously, because I've already rooted her, I can't put her in the oven to cure her nails, because the hair wouldn't stand the heat. The mohair or alpaca, whatever you use. It's not good to get that hot. It can go very, very frizzy. So it's quite good that it's actually curing really quickly today, because it can take a bit of time for these, with it being a thicker than usual layer. It can take a little bit of time to cure, especially if you use, say, Psycho paint and you thicken it. It can it can take quite a while for it to firm up, and it can become quite soft. It's quite common for the nail tips to rub off. Not a huge amount you can do about it except just redo them, but you don't want it to be too soft. And the Silpoxy or the Sam 32 that I'm using does it is a little bit tougher than ordinary silicone. It will stick a little bit better. And in the warm weather it does cure quite quickly. It's getting quite stringy now. I don't want to have to mix up another lot, so I'm just dipping my brush in solvent just to smooth it over where it's going a bit stringy, if you know what I mean. Right, I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes before I start doing her lashes. I'll do her lashes while that's curing, and then actually no, I'll do her brows first, because I do use some silicone to bed in the brows after I've done them. Right, I'm just going to leave these little feet here to cure. What you find you do get as well with the if you use Silpoxy or Sam 32, is you get a kind of raised edge, which is really rather cute because it actually looks like they're real nails. If you let it sort of slightly hang over, obviously not too much, but anyway, I'm going to leave that now for the time being. And I'm going to push on and do her her lashes first of all. Sorry, her brows first of all. Right, I'm going to do the eyebrows first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it along the brow line, because that's where our eyebrows are. And I'm going to do the angle of the hairs, first of all going upwards like that, and then they gradually go sideways, and then they come down like that. Now I'm not going to do a lot of hairs, because there's nothing worse than a baby with bushy eyebrows. Well, it's a baby doll with bushy eyebrows. You never see a baby with bushy eyebrows. I'm going to use the mohair that I used to root her. I may use a slightly lighter cut now. I think I will use the same colour. I'm not going to bother cutting it because I trim them obviously after I've done them. I'm going to use a rooting needle, which is the same rooting needle I used to root them. I'm going to do it very, very horizontal, and I'm going to pick up one hair at a time, if that. The hairs, these hairs are alpaca, so you don't get a lot thinner than that, and in fact you don't get a lot thinner than that because I actually haven't picked up any hairs yet. I'm doing this at a very awkward angle. Now what I'm going to do is just pick up one hair soon. There we are, there's one. Now that's 2 hairs, so I'm going to pull those out. I need to pick up the very end of a hair. It's very important that we only put literally 1 hair in at a time. There we go. I don't know if you can see that 1 hair. Can you see it? Is it going to go in focus? No. Can you see it? Yes, you can see it. So literally that is all I'm going to do. 1 hair there, and another hair. Sometime I'll pick it up. No. It's important that you get it placed right. You can pull it out, obviously. Another hair in there. That's got 2 hairs in it, so that's coming out. Sooner or later I'll get a hair. It's because I'm in an awkward position here. Right, what I'm going to do is trim these so that they're all finishing at the same place, so it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. There we are, that's another one. Another one. Oops. One. Too much. You have to watch it doesn't come out the other end as well, like this. So obviously where it goes in it has to come out, especially if you're going to do it, hold your needle very horizontal. I'm not putting many in, I'm just going to do a suggestion. So when these hairs get laid across, because what I'll be doing is, whoops, laying them in the direction of an eyebrow. It'll look a lot more thick than we've actually got. Right, we have a few hairs there. What I'm going to do is trim them. Now normally I'd use quite thin scissors, but I can only find these at the moment. So, oh no, I don't have to embarrass myself by using those. I'm going to use these, right? So, as I say, it's just a case of trimming them. Now they're going to stick up in the air now, obviously, because they do. You know, you no matter how close to the how horizontal you hold your needle, as soon as you take the needle out, it goes boing back up again. It's so annoying on silicone. It's so much easier on vinyl in that respect. So I'm just going to lay down just a few hairs there, which I have done, and then just 1 or 2 going the other way. Right, let's just trim those. See what we've got. I think I may even have enough there for the suggestion of eyebrows. Maybe another couple at the beginning, at the front here. Oops. We don't want Dennis Healy eyebrows, and most people who are watching won't know who Dennis Healy is. Never mind. Just trust me on this. We don't want thick eyebrows. Right, I think I'm going to stop there for now, and I'm going to trim them, and then I'm going to lay down a little bit of silicone so that they bed in. I can always add some more later if I want to. So what this does is just send them in the direction they really need to be going. Alright, so I'm going to use my Sam 32 again, mainly because it's here and it's out. It doesn't matter which silicone you use. I'm going to just fractionally dilute it, just tiny bits, so that it's still fairly thick. So we do still have a little bit of substance there. Right. And then we're going to use one of my brushes. Probably a medium fine one, and I'm going to paint it over the eyebrows, and then gradually get the eyebrows to go in the direction I want them to go, because they're sticking, hopefully. So we end up with them sort of starting to embed into the silicone. Doesn't matter if the Sam 32 or silicone, whatever you're using, leaves a kind of slightly raised effect, because it just looks like it's you know, they've got a bit of fuzz in that area, you know, fuzzy bit of eyebrow, but we really don't want a lot of hairs in there. So first of all they're going up, and then they're going across, and then just slightly down. Alright, I think that is enough for little Effie for now. In fact, I might take one of those downy ones off because it's too thick. Picked up a couple of hairs in there. You can always reapply them once the silicone is cured. There we are. So it's a case of sort of arranging them, really. Quite a bit of time to do this, so yeah, I think that's about right. They just need to be going in the slight vague direction of where the eyebrows will be, what they'll be doing at this point, and then we do the same on the other side. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the other side on camera because of the angle I've got it at. But basically, I'll show you when it's done on the other side. But as I say, you have to make sure it's obviously very symmetrical. But that's basically the eyebrow, and then obviously at the end, once this is all cured and everything, and we're fine with them, then we would just add a teeny bit of a layer of silicone and mat it so that it isn't shiny anymore. So I'm going to do the other side off camera, and then I'll come back. Now then, that's both eyebrows are done. Well, they're rooted. They'll need a little bit more attention in a little while. When I do the matting, I might even need to put a teeny bit more silicone on them, but they're looking okay at the moment, I think. Anyway, I'm going to push on and do the lashes. Now, again, I'm going to use the same hair that I used for the rooting. I'm going to use the same needle. I'm going to push on with it while I'm talking. Obviously you can use lashes that are that you buy in strips, or you can root them yourself. The jury's out for me on which I prefer. If you use the ready-made lashes that are in strips, you need to make sure when you cut the slit that you do it in the right angle. Otherwise you'll get one lash sticking upwards and one lash sticking downwards, which is never good. You can then stick them back together and try it again, but it's not ideal. When you root them, sometimes they can look a bit scrappy. And also, when you look at lashes that you buy in a strip, then they're not all exactly the same length. Which if you root them yourself and then cut them, they will be. But so what we do is we root them and then we trim them, and then I'll show you what we do after when it comes to that. So I'm just rooting them at the moment. There's not a lot to say about it really, except you can see what you're doing. They don't have that lovely curve on them that you get with real baby's lashes, unfortunately, but there's not a lot you can do about that except use the ready-made ones, which can look a bit dolly. It's all personal preference really, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way. So I've just rooted one little sort of like line across. Unfortunately it's still sticky, this. I wouldn't normally do this, but I just want to get this video finished really. So that's one. You can go back in obviously and do some more. So I'm just going to do the other eye. Obviously hold the needle according to where it is in the eye. This side, hold it this way, and then gradually go around like that, so that the hairs stick out at the right angle. It's really very easy to do, but you need to make sure you do get it bang in the centre. You don't have any lashes coming out of the eyelid or the lower lid, like that one is, for instance. I don't know if you can see that one there. There. It's slightly too high. Just put on that one there. I actually can't see as well as I would normally because of the camera. So, and as I say, we're getting them sticking to the eyebrows at the moment. But I just want to get on with this really. Then I can start putting the video up. Part 1 and part 2 of the videos are already up there, so I need to put the rest up fairly quickly, fairly soon. I'd like to get them all up this weekend really, which is meaningless to most people who are going to be watching this. you can see what I'm doing. I'm not sitting with my hand over where I'm going. That's what people keep saying, just when they're watching me. I won't go and put my head or my hand in the way of the video. Right, I'm just going to keep those away from the silicone at the top, the eyebrows. Right, what I'm going to do is give them a little bit of a trim. I'm going to trim them quite close to the eye, and you'll see why in a minute. Right, what we can do is carry on, but before we do that, I'm going to use tweezers and pull them out slightly. This way you get all the eyelashes of slightly different lengths. Rather than doing them rather than cutting them to the correct length, you can just pull them out, because obviously they've gone in by a good amount. So you can just tug at them and let them come out a little bit. And then I can carry on rooting them, making sure none of these bits of hair sticks to the eyebrow, which really shouldn't be sticky in a normal, when you're normally working. So what you can do is do some more, but do them at a different angle. So if they're also sticking fairly upwards, so I can do some more that are going to go more downwards. So sort of do it at this angle, which is going to be really difficult with the camera. But it's really a matter of just building them up. Don't do too many all at once. So I'm gonna do these off camera, because it is actually not going to be. I'm not going to be able to show everything because of the angle. But you can see what I'm doing. As I say, it's fairly straightforward, really. It's just a case of rooting them, trimming them, pulling them out slightly, rooting again, trimming it, pulling it out slightly, so they all end up at a slightly different angle to different length to each other, and I'll come back and show you at the end. Right, okay, I've done that. I've rooted them very lightly. I may go over them and do a little bit more, or do something to them once she's completely finished, but that'll do for now. So what I'm going to do is just put a teeny bit of silicone over the brows and a little bit of matting powder. Again, I don't seem to have. Here we are. Brush. Okay, so I'm going to again use some 32. Again, these cups, these lids are really good for this. Some 32. Dilute it with a little bit of the odourless solvent. Whiz it around with my whizzer. As you can probably tell, my throat's better now. Fighting fit. Now I've given it to Jamira, and she's poorly, but I think she's on the mend now, luckily. Right, okay, I'm just going to paint over this thin layer of silicone over the area that we went over for the when we did the brows. Right, go over it again. Right, well, I'm just going to leave that just for a few seconds, just to, so that some of the solvent can evaporate, while I'm going to mix up the silicone for the glossing. Now I don't need a lot of, actually it may be alright. Just put a teeny bit more Sam 32 in there. And then what we're going to do is go over the nails to give the nails a teeny bit of a gloss, and then all the little glossy bits that you want your baby to have. I'll do the glossy bits first because we all know how to do the nails. So I'm going to do the inside of the ear, not all of it, but just the bit that's waxy on the inside there, and here. And then a teeny bit across the eye, on the corner of the eye. Maybe a teeny bit on the lid. On the lips. Now I don't want it to look like she's got lipstick on, so I'm just going to put a teeny little bit on the lips and the nostrils. And then I'm going to put the matting powder on now. Just a touch on the eyebrows. There we are. And now all that's left to do are the nails. So I'm going to use the finer brush for this. Maybe too fine actually. No. And the nail tip is now set, cured. I just have to go and see to that timer. Right, I'm back. I'm actually trying to cook a meal at the same time as doing this, would you believe? Not recommended. These little last minute things just make the baby come alive. Right, this nail's done. Make sure they're not touching anything. The battery just went on my video, so I had to just plug it in. One good thing about using the Sam 32 rather than silicone is that it's quite a tough surface, and you really want that for nails because you don't want, as I say, they do tend to be the one thing that can rub off first. I say first, it sounds like everything's going to rub off, it's not, but the little nail tips can come off, and they can be re-put on over time. They can. With a lot of handling. Right, little toes done. And I believe there's just one more hand to do, and then I'm done. I'm going to leave her to cure completely, and then I'll come back and we'll have a little showing off of her. It's been really hot recently. I always seem to talk about the weather on these videos, and I apologise. I am British. We British are obsessed with the weather, but it's been very, very hot lately, last few days, and it's been crazy hot really for us. Just average hot for anybody else. But today's been pretty good. It's started to cool down. We had some thunder last night, and it's been too bright today, but it's actually just perfect outside there for photography now. I always seem to end up with the camera on the poor baby's bits and pieces. There we are. Right, so I am going to allow her to cure completely, and then I'm going to do some photography a little later of her finished. Okay, I'm going to stop messing with her because I know that I'll end up rubbing something off that I shouldn't. And I will see you all a little bit later.